Between 1989 and April 2001, there were 7 video games that predicted what would happen in September 2001. Which leads me to ask, have you ever heard of the term predictive programming? If not, well, basically what predictive programming is things happening and hidden in the media, whether it be TV shows, radio, music, video games, before they actually happen. And a lot of times it's atrocities, whether it be the death of a celebrity, the death of a very high-ranking official, or a tragic, catastrophic world event. This has happened time and time again. It happens all the time in The Simpsons, but today, since I have a video game-related channel, we're going to focus on 7 video games that seem to have predicted what would happen in September 2001. Now, I actually did a video very similar to this in 2017, except we only covered 3 video games. Now we have 7 different video games, and it's all very, very interesting. Also, I am making this video on September 11th, 2019, as today marks 18 years since all this stuff happened. And well, I'm a history nut, but also being that I have a video game related channel, I would like to relay to my younger audience out there that this horrible atrocity and event not only affected the United States, but the world as a whole, and also things as minimal as video games that were even affected by this. So if y'all do enjoy the video or learn something new, please consider giving it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and let me know down below in the comments, how old were you and where were you on September 11th, 2001? Number 7, Master of Weapon. Released in 1989, the whole premise of this game is basically after an entire week of a nuclear war on Earth that destroys the global environment, the survivors of the war gather their strength and resources in an attempt to bring the Earth back to the way it was using a supercomputer called the God System. And the survivors start their first step in rebuilding Earth by having the God System create machines capable of cleaning and reconstructing much of what had been lost during the war. However, without warning, a mysterious mutant entity known as N takes over the God System, creates different guardian statues based on Greek mythological figures, manipulates the system, and it attacks mankind. Now, that's the rundown of this game. But what's very, very odd about it is its foreshadowing of September 11th, 2001. So remember, this game released in 1989, and where it actually foreshadows or maybe predicts what happens in September 2001 is in the game you can actually shoot at tall rectangular office buildings that are sometimes grouped in pairs, much like the Twin Towers. And well, once you actually shoot these towers, they will collapse or pancake straight down into a cloud of debris after several hits, exactly like what would happen in 2001. But that's not it. It doesn't stop there. What's very, very weird about this is that at the beginning of this game, text displayed on the screen specifies that this game takes place September 11th, 1990X. Number 6, King of the Monsters 2. Released in 1992, the whole plot of this game basically takes place 3 years after the events of the first game, where only 3 monsters have survived what is known in history books as the King of Monsters Massacre. They've become more advanced and dangerous than ever before. But now in 1999, a powerful alien monster and his wave of minions threaten to conquer the Earth. The surviving monsters must defeat the alien menace and once again prove who is the king of the monsters. Now, where this game gets very interesting and possibly foreshadows September 2001 is during one of the first boss fights, the Twin Towers actually make an appearance in this game. Cool, right? Well, they're then taken out and pancake in the exact same fashion that would happen 9 years later. Number 5, Urban Strike. This 1994 classic is actually set in 2001, which is, well, that's pretty creepy. So, just a quick summary of the plot of this game. It's centered around the antagonist, H.R. Malone, a millionaire media mogul ex-presidential candidate, and fanatic cult leader who promotes a moralistic agenda that will expunge corruption from America and promises that his personal security force will tackle crime. Well, what gets very interesting about this game is somewhere and sometime inside of this game, the World Trade Centers, they make an appearance. They're attacked, and a giant hole appears in the middle of one of the towers with a helicopter trying to rescue people. Now, I'll just go off script here and state the obvious that, yes, the Twin Towers were the rooftop of the New York City skyline for quite some time, which makes them a target and makes them stand out, which is, I understand why this stuff could happen in video games. But what is just oddly coincidental is that this game and another one take place in 2001 and feature these terrible atrocities happening to these buildings in almost the exact same manner as to what would happen in the year 2001 in real life. Number 4, Aero Fighters 2, also released in 1994. This shoot-'em-up arcade game allows you to pilot a jet, and you have the objective of destroying buildings, enemies, armored enemy planes, and on level 4 in this game, you can actually shoot a hole in one of the World Trade Centers, almost recreating what would happen 7 years later. Number 3, Deus Ex. This is one of the more interesting ones in my opinion. This game released in the year 2000, and in one of this game's levels, we can actually explore Liberty Island, and while here we can see that the Statue of Liberty has been destroyed as the head is actually on the ground and has been knocked off. Now, we can also take a look around the New York City skyline, and one very interesting thing that we can note is that both of the Twin Towers are absent from this skyline. And remember, this game came out in the year 2000, and it is stated in-game that the Statue of Liberty was destroyed in 1997. Now, what's kind of cool about this and kind of suspicious is that, well, we have two explanations as to why the Twin Towers are absent from this game's skyline. Number 1, the Twin Towers were destroyed by terrorists, which makes sense as the Statue of Liberty is destroyed, and this is from in-game dialogue saying that the Twin Towers were destroyed. The second explanation actually comes from this game's developer. And believe it or not, the developer of this game said, and I quote, "The Twin Towers were removed due to memory constraints." But what's odd about this, and where I think we catch this game developer in a lie, is that this was actually tested out. World Trade Center textures were added to this game, and it ran just fine. There was nothing going on. And I'm not sure, this is my uneducated, just me spewing out the mouth, but this wasn't a real city in the distance. It was textures. It was 2D objects. So I can't see how much more memory that would take up from a game with two other textures added in. But like I said, that's my unofficial horrible opinion. I'm not a game developer, and also this was in the year 2000 where we had like 8 megabyte memory cards for the PlayStation, and that was pushing it at the time. Number 2, Command & Conquer Red Alert 2. This game was also released in the year 2000, and well, this game doesn't predict anything in the game, but on the actual box art for the game, that's where things get a bit interesting. So on the back of the box art, we see a plane flying right towards one of the Twin Towers. We see soldiers parachuting out of the back of this plane, but we've just got this plane headed to a very, very controversial building. And remember, this is in the year 2000 when this came out. Well, it was later replaced with a similar image of things moved around and just from a different perspective, so it didn't look like the plane was flying directly towards this building. Also, the front of this game's cover was also changed. We see a man, and in the reflection of his monocle, I guess you could call it, or his eye patch, there's an American flag. Well, that was in the original cover of this game, and in the re-released cover for this game, the flag was taken out and replaced with a mushroom cloud. And number 1, quite possibly the most interesting of them all, is a game called Trade Center Defender that released in April 2001. And this was a flash arcade game where players shoot down planes heading towards the towers, and if a plane hit the towers, it would pancake. Now, no traces of this game actually exist in 2019, or none that I could find at least. I tried to find this in 2017, I couldn't. And now in 2019, I still can't. Well, the week of September 11th, 2001, this game was actually removed from the internet and pulled from arcades. And here's a screenshot and the only image that we actually have of Trade Center Defender in existence, like I said, that I could find on the web. It was a bit cartoony. Well, by the end of September 2001, this game was actually remade by a French website and titled New York Defender, where it had the same premise except it was more realistic. So I'm a guy, I'm all about dark humor. I've got horrible taste in humor, needless to say. I don't get offended by anything really, and I'm not offended by this, but I can say straight up that this game, Trade Center or New York Defender, was created in bad taste, being that the original was removed the week of September 11th, 2001, and by the end of September 2001, this game was recreated, more realistic, and released. Like, that's some bad taste type stuff right there. You can actually play this game in 2019. It does exist. But that said, those are actually 7 games that have predicted what would end up happening in September 2001, which is very spooky, very interesting, and it makes you wonder how. Was somebody getting their Nostradamus on? Did these game developers know something that the public didn't? Who knows? Or maybe it was all just purely coincidental. But nonetheless, I hope that you all did enjoy this video. If so, please give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing. And with that said, I'm Zach Cox. Thank y'all for tuning in. Love you all, and I hope to see ya in the next video.